We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis. We will be joined shortly by Sal Paolantonio. See everybody in the chat section, by the way. Didn't get a chance to say hi right away. We see all you guys. We appreciate all you guys streaming, all you guys listening, just hanging out, taking it all in. And we got him. We actually got it. We were ready to roll. We got our next guest now. He is the man. He has been doing it to me at the highest level that we've seen from a reporting standpoint, covering the NFL for more than 30 years. And before that was just a great general reporter, author, you name it, the whole nine. He is the one and only Sal Paolantonio from ESPN NFL reporter. Sal, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you guys doing? You got me?
We got you, Sal. Loud and clear, baby. Looking good, man.
Yes, sir.
Like it. How you doing, Sal? Everything all right? How's your off season?
Yeah.
Is there an off season?
Well, I was in the studio at Get Up last week with Mike Greenberg was off, and they allowed me in the studio for a couple of days, which was nice.
You snuck in when nobody was looking.
Yeah.
No, I caught some of it, Sal. You did a great job. I love. At one point, I forget what you guys were doing. I think they were doing an NBA segment, and they came back to you guys at the desk, and you threw your little Sixers prediction out there, man. I know how much you follow the sport. Let me ask you, Phillies opening day. I know you're a baseball guy. I know you go to Clearwater. Give me your thoughts on the Phils, Sal.
Well, when D. Gunn said, Sal Pal, can you come on the show? I said, well, has to be before first pitch.
That's right.
I'll be watching on MLB channel when the Yankees and the San Francisco Giants kick it off at 1 p.m. And, there's two channels on my TV. One of them is MLB channel, and you can figure out what the other one is.
Right.
Yes. Well,
I'm a big baseball fan, and, I think Trey Turner's performance in the World Baseball Classic, just juiced everybody up for what we're going to see from this young man. It's going to be great. Right-handed power, hit a little pop from the right side in the Citizens Bank ballpark, that bandbox.
Yep.
I think it was yesterday somebody on MLB said that Trey Turner could be the first guy since like 2004 to have 40 stolen bases and 40 home runs.
It's not out of the question. The way the game with the new rules and stuff, Sal. He's going to get a lot of steals. I think could very happen. I think he's the MVP candidate. I think he's the front runner in the NL. I think he's that good.
Absolutely, it's going to be a great season for the Phillies, and I'm a big fan of the pitch clock.
Yeah.
I like no shift. I think that was great. I think the wider bases are good. It's safer because they're flat. I like change. I like things that are evolving in baseball. It's great.
Sal, did you ever cover baseball in your career?
No, I didn't. I like to play baseball, but I never covered it. When you cover baseball, 162 game season, spring training and postseason, that's a lot of family time that you miss.
I'm telling you.
I don't know how those guys do it.
I don't either.
Yeah,
162 games. I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's a lot. That is a grind, man. That is a grind. That's for sure. Sal, so much to get to here, Eagle-wise. Let me start with this one. The Lamar Jackson thing just keeps spinning in the ether here, and meanwhile it's nice and quiet. And I mean that in a good way when it comes to Jalen Hurts, and Howie made no bones about it at the owners' meetings, and Jeffrey too. We want to get this done. How soon do you think we'll see it get done?
I think it'll get done pretty soon. The Eagles like to make a big splash, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they did it around draft time. You put that news out there that Jalen Hurts is signed. I would not be surprised if it didn't happen right before or right after the draft.
That's close. 29 days away from the draft.
At this point,
well, it's real easy. You hand the young man a blank check and say, "Hey, number one, how much you want?"
Yeah.
Well, what do you think is the biggest object right now? You think if you're looking at Jalen in his camp? Is it guaranteed money, or is it the amount of years? What would you think is the biggest thing?
Nicole Lynn, who's running the operation for him, is a real under-the-radar person, just like Jalen Hurts, just like the Hurts family. You're not going to get a whole lot of information out of there, I don't think, and I don't have any. I don't know of anybody who does. So it's just strictly conjecture. But I remember being on this very program in December and I said it's got to be $50 million guaranteed. I mean, to me, you have to start with $100 million guarantee. Lamar Jackson got an offer of 3 years guaranteed, $133 million from the Ravens. I mean, to me, you start at 150, right, and say, all right, we're going to give you $50 million, $50 million, $50 million guaranteed for the first 3 years, and then we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at it from his perspective, Sal. Let's say it's a 5-year deal. He's not even 30 yet, and then he could test the waters again. I mean, it's from an Eagles perspective, you never know in the sport, right? Weird things can happen. Guys can get hurt. They fall. I don't think that's going to happen with him in terms of falling off, but it's not the worst thing in the world for either side if that's what it is. It's not some real long-term deal.
Well, the Eagles are going to want a long-term deal, right? They're going, and the Hurts is going to want a shorter deal because the salary cap's going to go up big time. And so, but if I'm Jalen Hurts, I get as much guaranteed money as I possibly can. I don't think it's going to be acrimonious. Just knowing the players on both sides. The Eagles are the only team that have given out 3 $100 million plus contracts to quarterbacks. That would be Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, and Carson Wentz. Okay, so they're going to get it done. He's going to get paid by the Eagles. The Eagles have money. The league has money. Jalen Hurts deserves the money. Those guys didn't come back on those sweetheart deals for a year. Those guys, the selling point wasn't, Howie Roseman's good looks or Jeffrey Lurie's fancy cars. The selling point was the chance to play with Jalen Hurts again and get back to the Super Bowl. That was the selling point.
No doubt.
Sal, if I'm in Jalen's camp, I want a shorter term deal simply because he'll be 27, 28 when that deal's up if he does a 3-4 year deal and he goes right back to the table. Who knows what the type of money the NFL will be bringing in by then compared to what they're bringing in now.
No question. That goes back to Barrett's question, right?
Yeah.
What will be the sticking point? I think if there's going to be anything, it won't be money. I think it'll be the number of years.
Right. Absolutely, as you deserve. Now, as they go forward, with Nick Sirianni, how they're going to be calling the plays, who's going to be doing this? You see him still sitting back, or he's just going to allow Johnson just to be the guy, especially with the relationship with him and Hurts?
Well, it's going to be hard for them to duplicate what they did last year. So
that's what I'm trying to.
Let's start with that. I mean, they were 14-3 for the first time in team history, and what the numbers were. They were incredible in terms of what they did. Franchise record. I didn't even know this. Franchise record in third down conversion rate, 45.9%. Franchise record. Scored a franchise record 477 points. And team records in total touchdowns, 59. Scrimmage touchdowns, 57. Rushing touchdowns, 32. I mean, it was a record-setting year offensively. And in my mind, it'll be tough to duplicate that, but there's no saying they can't be really successful offensively because, as you know, we have discussed a lot, and this is my point of view. People kept saying, Jalen is a function of the scheme. I heard that so many times. You guys know that I'm on the matchup show with Greg Cosell and Darius Butler. And we always said, and I always say, he's not a function of the scheme. Jalen Hurts is the scheme.
Right, exactly.
He is, other than Patrick Mahomes, and maybe even not Patrick Mahomes, because Andy Reid is such a great play designer. Maybe I could say it. Other than maybe Bill Walsh, one of the greatest play designers and callers in NFL history has got to be Andy Reid, right? I mean,
no doubt.
And so Patrick Mahomes is definitely helped by that. He's a beneficiary of that. And Jalen Hurts was just taking baby steps with Shane Steichen last year. And now I think the world of Brian Johnson. And those two, Jalen Hurts and Brian Johnson, they are totally simpatico, on the same page, finish each other's sentences. They are very close. But the proof is he going to be able to call the plays to Jalen's liking? And it'll be a committee, right? Rob. I mean, it'll
Yeah.
be like they'll get into the meetings and they'll say, all right, Jalen, do you like this in this situation? How do you feel about that? And I remember talking to Shane Steichen one-on-one at the Super Bowl when they had the last day where the assistant coaches were available to the media. I had them all by myself at the table. And Shane said to me that when Jalen was getting off the plane in Phoenix at Sky Harbor Airport, he was texting Shane Steichen, what do I do on this in this situation? How do I handle this play? How do I handle this formation on third down inside the 5? Jalen is like constantly grind. Lurie uses that term, and sometimes it can be, overused. But with Jalen, it's really true. And Shane Steichen told me when he's eating dinner, before he's going to bed, he's constantly getting those texts from Jalen on situational offensive football. Very rare. It's Brady-like, I think.
Mhm.
That's awesome. And that Eagles fans, that's music to your ears. Let's assume, Sal, that the offense is going to be good. I think it will. I don't think they're going to skip much of a beat with Brian Johnson. Defense, it looks like, at least, and we don't know yet, they may draft real impactful players, and that could change things. But it looks like they may be a little less talented, at least, and maybe take a hit. Philosophically, are you a believer that, look, this is such an offensive league, you can live with a defense that's decent if you're that dynamic offensively?
Well, you lost Hargrave and you lost Gardner Johnson. And so you're starting out with 2 new safeties and a new defensive tackle, but the same scheme, right? Sean Desai is a disciple of Vic Fangio. That's who we learned from in Chicago. So is Jonathan Gannon. He was a disciple of Vic Fangio. Fangio was a consultant last year for the Eagles. It's 2 high safeties. Keep everything in front of you. Let's win the explosive play differential. Do it on offense. Prevent it on defense. That was the formula. So you have to have safety play, 1, and you have to be able to get after the quarterback with 4 and 5-man rush. Okay, so it didn't really work great in the Super Bowl, especially in the second half. We don't have to go through all of it because it's pretty nauseating. But, I mean, honestly, not to put too fine a point on it, it's been –
I don't think anybody's going to argue with you.
No, people have gone over it, over and over and over it. But, Sean Desai is basically going to run Jonathan Gannon's defense. He's just got to do it better in the second half of a Super Bowl. That's it. That's the bottom line. They were 3 points away.
Sal, are you surprised that the front office, Lurie and Howie, basically gave Sirianni carte blanche to hire coaches compared to Doug Peterson basically being handcuffed when it came to hiring coaches? I mean, they've talked about, Sirianni's talked about how he's interviewed all these people before he arrived at a final decision on certain coaches this particular offseason. They never really gave Doug that kind of leeway.
Well, I mean, Derek, Sirianni has earned it, I think. 1, that record-setting performance. 2, it was never going to be anybody else but Brian Johnson.
Right.
Let's be real here, right?
Right. Exactly.
There were whispers at the Super Bowl. We were there. We knew Shane Steichen was on the short list in Indianapolis. He interviewed there twice. And I spent a lot of time, obviously, with them at their hotel. And, it was going to be Brian Johnson. So it didn't really matter how many interviews he did. And as for Sean Desai, it came down to, all right, do we want to bring in Vance Joseph? They interviewed him. Vance Joseph had the highest blitz percentage over the last 5 years of any defensive coordinator in the league. The Eagles are not a blitzing defense. They were going to bring in a guy who basically ran the same kind of defense that Jonathan Gannon did. That's their personnel. That's the approach they want to take. That's the approach that Sirianni wants to take. Before every game, he gives the same speech to the team about the 2 major talking points. He tells me every week, 1, we're going to win the turnover battle. 2, we're going to win the explosive play battle. We're going to win the double positives, the turnover and the explosive play. Well, there's 2 ways to do that. You got to make explosive plays offensively, and they're doing that because now they have a dual threat quarterback who can win from the pocket And 2, boy, is he winning from the pocket, man.
Mm.
Oh, man. And 2, stop the explosive plays defensively by playing 2 deep safety. So I don't really think there was any mystery of who they were going to hire.
Well,
Okay.
at this point, do you still think they're atop of not just the division, but top the NFC? Just from the offensive standpoint, because I think they're number one. I still think that the 49ers are still behind the buck as far as offensively what we have here in Philadelphia.
No, I think the Eagles are the top team in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
Period, paragraph, next sentence, next thought.
I'm trying to get these guys to go along with me because they're still screaming they like the 49ers.
I think that they're tell me who the 49ers quarterback is going to be.
That's the whole thing. Yeah,
Absolutely.
in that league, if you don't have a quarterback, you're dead. And the Eagles have a quarterback, an elite quarterback. And that's the difference. San Fran's got everything on paper defensively, and they add Hargrave and all that. But if you don't have a quarterback, none of it. Look at last year. How good they were defensively last year. Did it matter? No.
Well, Shanahan's a firm believer that his system is what makes the quarterback. That's why he can plug and play anybody.
Well, it's hard to disagree with that when you look at the results of who he's put in there. I mean, they haven't won the Super Bowl, but you look at what they did. I mean, how many franchises play 3 different quarterbacks in one season and keep the machine rolling? You don't see that. Usually when you have a significant drop-off when you go from 1 to 2 and definitely 1 to 2 to 3. But that machine kept rolling and got better as the season went along with this Mr. Irrelevant kid that nobody ever heard of before until he got hurt.
Yes, and in general terms, I definitely agree with you, D-Gun. But I think, again, let's keep it real and let's pull the lens in and look specifically at what's going on with Kyle Shanahan, all right? He comes into Philly and he fails to protect Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
And Hassan Reddick is jumping all over him as if he's skydiving in from I-95.
With a tight end, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Okay, now you go 1 game later in the Super Bowl, Andy Reid's got Hassan Reddick blocked and they don't touch Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
So, I mean,
Great point.
I don't know from nothing, but I'm just telling you, listen, you got to be able to protect the quarterback. And if you have a young quarterback like Brock Purdy, what are you doing? You're signing Hargrave to protect Brock Purdy? What? You had the best run defense in the league last year when you walked into Lincoln Financial Field,
Mm-hmm.
and the Eagles waltzed all over you. They didn't have to throw the ball because they lost their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great point.
And they let their starting right tackle, who wasn't that good, leave. And
Glenn
trying to piecemeal a starting right tackle right now.
Yeah. So I mean, I that's why I say the Eagles are the number 1 team in the NFC, not the Giants,
No.
Listen, the Cowboys improved themselves. They did. They realized they're getting beat. They brought in Gilmore. They realized they got to get better between the hash marks. That's what Brandon Cooks will do. He runs option routes. What is the one problem with the Eagles defense? You can load them in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? They are susceptible to the short and intermediate crossing routes over the middle, and that's what Cooks does. But they lost Dalton Schultz. Did they not lose Dalton Schultz?
They did. He's gone.
All right. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a wash. I mean, but Brandon Cooks will help them because it'll allow Dak Prescott to get the ball out of his hands much more quickly. Like Brady, get the snap to release number down so Reddick and Sweat and the rest of the fellas are not jumping all over him or trying to flush him out of the pocket.
Well, what do you think about McCarthy calling the plays, though?
Well, they had the 4th highest ranked offense in points scored last year. They were 4th in the league. So I don't think that was a major bone of contention or problem with the team. He says he wants to run the ball. So, okay, go ahead and run the ball. The Eagles have got explosive plays. I mean, I like what the Cowboys have done overall, but I don't see them supplanting the Eagles as the number 1 team in the NFC. So give me another one. Minnesota, the Eagles waxed them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah,
say that. Probably the Saints with Carr now.
Yeah, but that's I hear. I think it's more in division competition than anything else, I would say.
Yeah. Well, Dallas, the Eagles scored an average of 30 points a game against the Cowboys. They scored 26 and then 34, and Jalen didn't even play in that game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in 2 games, they scored 60 points against the Cowboys defense. So they went out and got Gilmore, but if they can't deal with the Eagles' run game and Jalen Hurts, I don't see them supplanting the Eagles right now. I just don't. But, it is hard to get back to the Super Bowl. As, last 18 quarterbacks to lose a Super Bowl have not gone back.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
That's troubling. That's a troubling stat right there.
It's hard to go back.
It is.
It's hard to go back, and it's hard to go back and win. The last coach and quarterback to lose their debut in the Super Bowl and then go back and win it was Hank Stram and Len Dawson in Super Bowl IV. That's 63 years ago.
Wow.
That's a long time ago. Okay.
So it's hard to go back and it's hard to win it. But if there's any team that I think can do it, it is the Eagles. You got to obviously knock on wood. You got to stay healthy. That's numero uno. And you got to stay healthy at the quarterback position. That's the number one thing.
Huge.
So let me ask you this. This Aaron Rodgers thing is flat out exhausting. I'm tired of hearing about it. And both sides have a lot to gain and lose. But both sides want to feel like they don't come out being taken advantage of. Who blinks first in finalizing this deal?
Well, here's what I've been told that's going on behind the scenes right now.
Yeah.
All right. Number one, they pretty much figured out draft compensation for 2023. It's going to be a second-round pick. The sticking point is, what if Rodgers doesn't want to play in 2024?
Yep.
What will the compensation look like and turn into if he decides to go back to La La Land? Right? That's
back to the darkness retreat.
Peyote Kingdom.
Yeah.
Peyote Kingdom. Yeah.
To each his own. Whatever he wants to do.
Right.
I don't want to make fun of it. I think do what you want to do, as long as you as we used to say in the Navy, you want to stay out with the owls, you got to get up with the eagles in the morning.
Right. I don't know.
You go do your thing, but come to work the next day, right?
Exactly.
Ready to play, ready to put on the pads and the helmet and whatever it takes. So I'm all for whatever people want to do, but just are you all in when you're here, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Jets want to get some kind of notion from Rodgers that he's going to come back in 2024. I don't know how they can get a guarantee. What is he going to write down?
I promise.
I promise. I mean, it'll be hard, right? I mean, it'll be difficult, but they have to get some indication. And then if he decides, you know what, I've had it, I don't like New York, they could always trade him.
Yep.
Yeah.
They could always trade him. Boy, oh boy, the Packers made a real mistake.
Yeah, they did.
They should have traded him last year to Denver.
Yep. It was there for the taking.
Look at what they got.
It was on their racket, Rob. It was on their racket. Look what they got, D-Gun. Look at it.
Yeah.
Look what they could have got. How many picks, how many players they could have gotten from Denver for Aaron Rodgers, and you still put him in the AFC. I mean,
5 draft picks and 4 players.
And they're not going to get
draft
nearly
picks,
that.
4 players.
And 2 were first-round picks, and 1 was a second.
They made a real – and no one talks about that right now.
Great point. Yeah.
That's absolutely.
Well, let me stay on the quarterback thing then, Sal. Lamar Jackson. How does this end? Is he staying in Baltimore? Is he going? Where does this end up?
That's a big tough one. I mean, it's tough to put that toothpaste back in the tube, to use a cliche that's overused. I mean, I don't know how you make both sides. Lamar Jackson's going to have to figure out how do I go back? How do they save face? How do they help him save face in this situation? Because I just don't see any teams willing to give up the picks and give the guaranteed contract. So it looks like he's got to go back to Baltimore, which goes back to, why did he put out that tweet
That's the only thing. I mean, what is wrong with these young kids these days? Well, these are young men.
They don't get it. They don't get
Why
it.
are they tweeting? What
Well,
do you?
it reduced it eliminated his leverage.
Mhm.
It eliminated the Ravens' leverage. Let's say the Ravens did want to trade him, but now teams know that he wants to be traded. If I'm say the Eagles, and I want to use that example. So I say Pittsburgh or the Jets, and I'm calling up Eric DaCosta because I hear you want to trade Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson tweets out that I asked to be traded. Well, now, hey, you got a disgruntled player who wants out. My price just went down by half.
Right.
Sal, I don't see how the Ravens can let Jackson go simply because right after the season, ownership came out and said, we are moving forward with Lamar. And then John Harbaugh at the owners' meetings last week said, our plan is to move forward with Lamar. That's all they talk about. You know, obviously they're not going to tip their hand behind closed doors, but when you put that out there to the public, you trade this dude, you're left with an egg on your face because who's quarterbacking your team? Huntley? No. So I don't know how they can trade him. Even if he wants out, I don't know how they can trade him.
Well, it's definitely a conundrum. There's no question. He's put it out there that he wants out, and no team wants him right now. Under these circumstances, he's going to have to change his demands. So unless he comes out and says, hey, I don't want a guaranteed contract, that's the one thing that has to happen. If I were him, and everybody else is saying it, I would hire an agent. I would get on the phone and I would say, this is what I want. This is what I will take. Indianapolis, New England, whoever might be interested in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, when you look around the landscape, the Jets have said, we're not interested.
Yep.
The only teams would be the Commanders, maybe the Colts. I don't think the Patriots are interested at all. Clearly, it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
So who's going to do it? I don't know. What owner is going to break ranks and say, I'll give the guaranteed deal? I don't think any. So I think Lamar's going to have to change his tune on that in order to get out of Baltimore.
Interesting. Sal, always insightful, man. Always.
Appreciate you, brother.
That's it. That's all you want from me. I mean,
we're going to get you to your baseball game. We're taking care of you.
It's 1 o'clock. Don't you want to see the Yankees play?
You need your baseball fix, man. We know
but
that.
I got into it. You know, when I start talking to you gentlemen, I get into it. And time goes by like that.
Yeah, we love it, Sal.
Really appreciate you, Sal.
Always
Thank
love having
so
you
much.
on, bro.
Are you going to be in case for the draft, Sal?
I'm always with the number one pick. I'll be down there with our friend Frank Reich down in Charlotte.
Oh, very cool.
I'm always on the road with one of the teams, which is nice.
Yeah,
get some of that Carolina barbecue, man.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
You know, when you do the draft, when you're one of the teams, it's 24/7. You're embedded, and you know.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy it. It's my 30th draft, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. Sal, keep up the good work, man. We always appreciate you taking some time with us.
Awesome,
Thank you,
bro.
Thank you, bro.
All right,
Thanks, Sal. Sal Paolantonio, ESPN, the premier, in my opinion, reporter out there, and has been doing it. And it's not a coincidence. It's his 30th year. That is
The
not
measuring rod, man. That's what you want to do.
Yep.
The measuring rod.
You do it at that level, man. That is not easy to keep going as long as he's done it in this crazy business. All right, let's get a quickie in here, guys. We'll come back. We'll continue. Let's bounce some of the things that Sal had to say around. We'll do that. We'll do some Sixers like we talked about. 2 o'clock, Scott Fransky. By the way, we'll do some NFL stuff too. Sante Samuel, former Eagle, little shots fired at the hoodie, man. Let's do that actually when we come back. Let's get into some of those things when we return. Don't go anywhere. Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Time to tell you about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group. Yes, because trying to find that right person with your finances can be a really scary proposition, right? But I can tell you from personal experience that I found the right person, and I want you to have that person who is going to guide you down the right road, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business and you need help with your employee benefits. That's another resource that Jim can help you with. I know personally, I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. He's also a great resource to bounce things off of. If you just need him, you reach out to him. Here's the phone number, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You can also email him, Murray, MURRAY.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.